Hi, this is Chef Rick Moonen, interviewing from my studio in Las Vegas. The name of my podcast is Ocean Raised. Here's where I get to dive deep into storytelling with the original gangsters of cuisine to find out where they started and what drives them. Today, I connect with one of our good neighbors from up north in Vancouver, British Columbia. Chef Ned Bell was one of the first to truly embrace the concept of sustainable oceans management and respect of all of our aquatic fragile ecosystems. Ned is recognized as a well-known Canadian culinary talent who has forged his way as a chef advocate, keynote speaker, and educator. He currently is the chef owner of Narmada Inn, where he has found the best of Okanagan's natural bounty and put it all in one place. As one of the country's leading chefs, he has used his voice, outgoing personality, and indomitable spirit to stand up for the world's lakes, oceans, and rivers. As a father of three sons, Finn, Max, and Jet, he's dedicated himself to inspiring and educating people to become part of the solution for healthier oceans for today's children and all the generations to come. Chef Bell has earned many honors over the years, most recently Fellow of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society 2019, Honorary Doctorate in Technology from Vancouver Island University 2019, SeaWeb Seafood Summit Global Champion Award 2017, and author of the best-selling cookbook Lure, Sustainable Seafood Recipes from the West Coast. He continues to earn recognition for his ability to influence consumers, industry, media, and government policies through clear and often deliciously illustrated education that supports the long-term health of the world's oceans, lakes, and rivers. He has a proven track record for unifying chefs, farmers, fishermen, and influencers from around the globe, including Canada, USA, China, Vietnam, Japan, Europe, and South America. Ned joined the table at the United Nations headquarters in New York to engage his Chefs for Oceans platform, which led him to cook for the UN's General Assembly. He was also scheduled to be on the ticket as a lead presenter at the UN's Oceans Conference in Portugal in 2020. We know what happened in 2020. Through his culinary network, Ned is also working with the James Beard Foundation's Smart Catch program through their continued series of impact events. As a fellow chef member of Monterey Bay Aquarium's Seafood Watch Blue Ribbon Task Force, he will be a keynote speaker at scheduled events in Portland later this year. Ned Bell was presented with an honorary doctorate degree in technology from Vancouver Island University in the summer of 2019. His recognitions and accolades go on and on and on. He has a rich culinary backstory that started at the age of 12 that I wanted to share with us here today. Ned, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with me today, and I can't wait to talk about the oceans and the waters. I know you want to get out of that gate, but I want you to take it back a minute. I want to know because you know you're amazingly impressive with your knowledge, your passion, and your direction. You're never wrong as far as I'm concerned, and that makes me proud to know you. So that being said, you're 12 years old. You're washing dishes. Who's in the house? What's going on? I mean, how did that brain start to go in this direction?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, Rick, I mean, what an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm speaking of original gangster, you are number one original gangster, brother. I wouldn't be where I am without you. And so just a quick thank you for all the work that you have done and continue to do. And I remember the first time we collaborated at the Four Seasons in Vancouver, it was you know, an experience I'll never forget because, you know, the work that you forged with some of your incredible peers, you know, Norman Van Aken and so many great guys back in the day, you know, really championing the oceans back in the late 90s and even before. I mean, you inspired a whole generation of chefs like me. So,
the fun, okay, but this, you have to, we're telling stories. So the fun fact behind that is you stalked me on the internet, and I didn't know who you were, some guy from Canada. Because I'm in my manic part of my life. You know, I'm managing, juggling, doing all these crazy things. And I get back to you, and we became friends instantly. And that's how I ended up going up to Canada. We actually stayed in contact with each other and became friends then. And I got to travel to the beautiful hotel that you were working in, where you changed everything, the atmosphere. When you went in there, you took the Four Seasons to a next and brighter, I would say, my opinion, place.
Well, I mean, Four Seasons as a brand, of course, globally is extraordinary, but that restaurant specifically, You Seafood and Bar, yeah, we converted it to the first 100% ocean-wise seafood restaurant in the country, and we grew our revenues by 40% over the next 4, 5, 6 years. It was really that proven concept that our guests were curious about where their seafood was coming from, how it was raised, how it was fished, who fished it, where it was fished, all of the things that you and I, of course, hold near and dear to our heart. And I mean, going back to when I was 12, I was born on a farm in the Okanagan. So, right down the way from where I am today. I actually live about 20 minutes from where I was born. And we have this incredible project, the Narmada Inn. Basically, we're a restaurant with rooms, similar to a place in Healdsburg or in somewhere in Napa and Sonoma. We sometimes call the Okanagan Valley affectionately Napa Valley North. And so it's on the middle of a 100-kilometer lake, and got about 150 wineries here. It's pretty special place. But, my parents divorced when I was 12, and I have a younger brother and a younger sister, and truthfully, my parents did the best they could. My mom is specifically, because all the kids were with her, and she was out selling real estate, and she was busy at night, working deals, and I was the oldest, and so I was in charge of, trying to herd the cats, so to speak, and I got tired of frozen Costco lasagna, truthfully, and so I started to cook, and I have no idea how it really happened, because of course, when I was 12 and you were a few years older, there was no Food Network yet. So we weren't being inspired by television chefs. I mean, there was Julia Child, and there was
Graham Kerr.
Graham Kerr, and there was Walk with Yan. Graham Kerr, actually, he came and stayed at the Four Seasons Vancouver for 2 weeks.
He lives up there. He lives in that area. I mean, it's it's the U.S. side maybe, but it's Vancouver used to throw a rock.
Yeah, he was a great guy. What a legend, of course. Jacques Pepin, Walk with Yan, Julia Child, Graham, the original gangsters. I think, one of the first that I remember seeing on TV that was a bit of a wow was, of course, Emerald. But, beyond that, there was no Food Network in Canada. I mean, Food Network in Canada launched in '99, a few years after Food Network USA. And so I became a chef, not because I wanted to become a so-called celebrity chef. I became a chef because I love to cook, and, started washing dishes like the traditional path of so many of our peers at 14. My father was a hippie, so, I grew up with dirt under my fingernails, and then, in the air, and sure. we grew up fishing on the West Coast. You have to remember, Rick, it's legal in Canada, so it's
I'm in Vegas. We're good.
It's
Not
part of the
else.
it's part of the culture. It's part of the culture. But I grew up fishing for wild BC salmon with my dad, and just fell in love with the environment, the ecosystem, the outdoors, the forests, the trees, the animals, and of course the fish. And so, I mean, not to speak of the First Nations peoples that have been, conscious consumers for 12,000 years, long before us, but we grew up on the West Coast. And, don't forget, Greenpeace started in Vancouver in the 70s. So, we, like California, are very committed to the environment and to the ecosystem. And, my book, Lure, celebrates species from California to Alaska, because, I mean, we're talking about fish that doesn't understand borders. I mean, it understands rivers, but, it doesn't understand borders. Look at that beautiful book right there.
This book is awesome. No, really. Yeah. I truly love it.
Well, thanks, buddy. I mean, it's
and you signed it very affectionately to me. I think you said, enjoy life, dive deep.
Yeah, there you go.
That's very personal. Thanks.
Dive deep. I think you might have just signed your book, Rick.
No, I said Love and Fishes.
Yeah, you did.
Whatever I say. Best Fishes.
I wonder, do I have my book here in front of me?
No, this isn't right.
Your book's up over there. But no, I mean, food quickly became you know, a really important part of my life. I wasn't the best student in high school, but I absolutely loved the restaurant business. It was an extended family. You know, as I said, my parents divorced, and so I was the oldest, and, you know, I absolutely loved being in the kitchen. Truthfully, one of my earliest memories of my very first job was I got to walk in, you know, I remember distinctly, I get to walk into the cooler and eat as much apple crumble as I want. I mean,
these are all for you.
Yeah, exactly. Still the sous chef one day.
Smells so good in here.
Yeah, the sous chef who's still a friend of mine at that first restaurant, his name's Dennis Green. He came in and he's like, "Hey, Ned," and I was pretty chubby back then. To be clear, I was eating too much apple crumble. You can't eat all the mise en place, kid. Like, you got to wash the pots and pans. You don't get to eat everything.
Hey, man, it's a benefit.
He had this pecan chicken dish that I still can taste. Like, you know, there's some recipes from your early beginnings in the kitchen that still
chicken marsala, I can
distinctly remember, you know, and that's what I love about what we do. I mean, I'm 47, Rick, a little bit younger than you. I absolutely love what I do for a living. And, you know, it's been hard as hell, man. I mean, it's, you know.
Oh, you don't have to tell me.
Shoot up and spit out. Financially, I've had a restaurant go sideways, you know, struggled with alcohol. I mean, it's not the easiest business / industry / craft. But the one thing that's held true for me is my love for my teams, my craft. And, you know, I'm cooking the best food I ever have up here in the Okanagan now. And it's exciting.
Well, tell us, our listeners, my listener, the story behind Lumiere. I mean, and Feeney, and the explosion of how that the impact that had on Vancouver as a food town.
Yeah, well,
and it's historical. And I want to hear from your mouth, though.
I mean, believe me, I was a part of it because Rob Feeney was an instructor at the culinary school that I went to, the De Brule French Culinary School, which was in Vancouver and is no longer, but was around forever. It actually got bought by the Art Institute. Rob left and went to be the sous chef at a restaurant called Le Crocodile, which is where I got my apprenticeship. So Rob was an instrumental part of the first 7 years of my career. And then in 95, so I graduated culinary school in 93. Then in 95, he left Le Crocodile to open Lumiere. And I remember our first menu at Lumiere was basically almost a straight copy of Le Crocodile, because Rob hadn't quite found his voice yet culinarily. And then within a very short period of time, he started to turn to sustainable seafood and, you know, global flavors, West Coast ingredients. So, you know, in Vancouver, we have a huge Chinese and Japanese and Asian influence. We have a huge South Asian influence. Yes. And so all of those flavors started to creep into our food. And Lumiere very quickly became the #1 restaurant in the country. And not only that, for the 10 years that it was kicking butt and taking names, Rob was the first real celebrity chef in Canada to have a recognition outside of our country. He became good friends with Charlie Trotter. He became good friends with Thomas Keller. He became great friends with Daniel Boulud. Right. You know, all of these guys were obviously legends and still are. And, you know,
simultaneously in the States, just for a second, something in my head, and it's pretty significant. So when this is all happening, you know, Lumiere is going finally through its recognition. It's adopting some Asian influences. It's going sustainable. It's becoming the most popular place. That's when the Food Network started.
That's right.
So the surge in the importance of foodies and connect and people and chefs that had opportunities to actually have a voice, like with a theme behind it. You know, we're going to be, you know, sustainable. We're going to be seafood is beautiful because you're not locked into a specific cuisine. It doesn't have to be Italian. It doesn't have to be, you know. So so I just want to bring up we have some of the best Chinese food in North America. Absolutely.
and he and some of the best sushi in North America in Vancouver. Tojo, who actually created the California roll and the BC roll, he, you know, is based in Vancouver and has had a leading restaurant there for, you know, 30 plus years. I mean, getting my apprenticeship at Le Crocodile, you know, with Chef Michel Jacob was like going to Harvard. Like it was like, you know, no one can take away your foundation. And this is actually why so many chefs these days, I try and tell them, you know, don't be in a rush, you know, choose the chef you want to learn from, give him or her, you know, 3 years, give them enough time to really soak it all in. It took me 10 years to be a chef, like, or to become a chef, you know.
Absolutely.
I wasn't in a rush, you know. I was making $8 an hour, $9 an hour, $10 an hour in my 3rd year as my apprenticeship. In my apprenticeship, I wouldn't trade that for anything. And so many young chefs these days are running from culinary school into being kitchen managers somewhere, making 60 or 70 grand a year, and then they never actually learn anything, and they're doing the same thing 10 or 15 years later.
They're stressing out because the schools are beating them up with tuitions, and there's no assistance from the government, and it's just it's a red hot mess, bro. It's a red hot mess. I mean, I don't want to get into politics. It's too easy.
No, it is. But you're right. I mean, back in 95, 96, 97, I don't know when Food Network US started, but that was a really special time in the culinary world. You know, though, you know, I think, when did French Laundry open? 93 or 4 or 5 or something like that.
At the same time. That's right. And that was weird because Thomas went from New York, where he had Raquel. It was a Raoul Keller, Raquel. It was a cool restaurant. But the food took too long for New Yorkers. They were too impatient to wait for a chicken to roast because he was going to do it to order. That mentality said, okay, screw it. He's out the door, back to California, plop himself in an area that's going to absorb, it's going to appreciate that. No, it's going to take 4 hours to get the Keller experience. So that's what was going on then.
Yeah. I mean, and then guys like you were doing your thing on the East Coast, and then you came, you know, into Vegas. And I mean, so many of those original, you know, men and women who, you know, certainly inspired me. I mean, I'm not a young guy anymore, but I feel so fortunate to have come up during that time, because I did, you know, like I said, there was no Food Network. I didn't know what a celebrity chef was. I just wanted to be a chef, you know,
that's right.
And I think that really helped me, because if I went to culinary school to be a celebrity chef or be on one of the 55 different television shows nowadays, you know, I don't think I would have given my craft what it deserved to really marinate, you know, and be willing to do an apprenticeship for 3 years in a traditional French restaurant where I didn't even see the pans section until my last 6 months, you know, in my apprenticeship. Like I was doing desserts, peeling carrots, you know, entremetier for the first 2 years. And then the last year I don't even think I ever got to work on the sauce station, because Michelle did the sauce station. Like it was
that's the coveted station.
Yeah, that's the chef station. That's where he stands and, you know, pours sauce on the plate, and that's all he does. But I mean, he's had his restaurant for 35 years, you know. Up here in Vancouver, Le Crocodile is iconic. 35 years for a restaurant's a long time, as you know. So you know, we opened Lumiere in 95, and then Rob was hot. You know, he still is hot, but he was really hot back then. And people were asking him to go and consult all over North America and all over Asia. His partner was Chinese. And so, you know, there was all kinds of opportunity. But he chose a hotel in Toronto, the Intercontinental Hotel in Toronto, hired him as a consultant, and he brought me with him to be his implant, and I ended up staying there for 5 years. And then from Toronto, I moved to Calgary and had my first sort of premium casual experience, where we were doing a restaurant that did 300 covers a night, and that was called the Murrieta's West Coast Grill. And that's when we started to bring seafood into Alberta, premium seafood into Alberta. And, you know, that was 2001. And then Oceanwise was born in 2005, and that was the Canadian version of the Seafood Watch program, basically.
I remember it.
You know, of course, Seafood Watch started in 99, and, you know, it took us a number of years to sort of adopt our own program, because forever we were using Seafood Watch's program up here. And you know, truthfully, the rest is history. I mean, I was so, in 2010, 2011, I joined Four Seasons, and we converted that restaurant to a seafood concept. And, I found my calling in my second decade in culinary. I realized this is important, and this is in my backyard, and I'm committed and passionate about this. And so many of our peers
let's take that word. Let's take that word committed, and I want to ask you a question. I want you to tell this story, and then we're going to go. You and I can just free flow on the environment and seafood in our aquatic world. What I want you to tell the story of is how committed you were to telling and making sure that people were aware of sustainability, as how important it was. You took a small bike ride, I think, a tiny one, because as I really got to know you, you were training for this bike ride for many, many months to get yourself up enough stamina. Mister, I used to be heavy. Give me a break. Tell the story of your bike ride across Canada.
Yeah, well, I had this crazy idea that I was going to ride my bike from St. John's, Newfoundland, all the way as far east as you can possibly get in North America, all the way back to Vancouver. It was about 8,700 kilometers, about 4,000 miles. And I wanted to do events across the country with my peers and really engage them in the importance of, at the time, sustainable seafood was the term. I think we use different terms now, but, sustainable seafood, healthy lakes, oceans, and rivers, trying to get them to appreciate, that fresh isn't frozen isn't a 4-letter word, that farmed isn't a 4-letter word. And, the deeper I dove into sustainability or into, traceability, into responsibility when it comes to how we harvest or raise fish, the more I realized that a lot of our peers just don't know what the heck they're talking about, or potentially just don't have the knowledge. To be clear, they want the knowledge, they just might not necessarily have the time. And so, 40 years ago, we weren't farming fish all that responsibly, but now farmed fish is, gold standard, harvesting seafood from the ocean. I mean, I like to say that we're lucky that Mother Nature still gives us wild fish. It's not our right to eat it all. Yeah. And
my biggest issue at this point, as we stand now, and you and I have both seen the vast amount of changes that have been made, the understanding of better aquaculture for all reasons, and you and I connectiveness of knowing, and we know this for a fact, is that no great product is going to come from an environment that's not healthy. So that being said, we go way back. Anyway, I forgot what I was going to say, so it doesn't matter.
No, it's all good. I mean, I think the truth is, companies like your partners at Forever Ocean. I mean, so many responsible, aquaculture companies are doing extraordinary things. And, if I want fresh seafood on my plate 12 months of the year, I can't only serve wild fish from my backyard. So I need to have, steelhead, kampachi, Arctic char, different trout species. Obviously I live in the backyard of wild BC salmon, the only place on the planet where we have, 5 unique species. I mean, we have wild Pacific halibut, we have wild BC spot prawns, we have shellfish, we have seaweed, we have sablefish, we have Dungeness crab, we have all kinds of extraordinary things.
Yeah, I could live there.
Yeah, it's a special place. I mean, but as you live in Vegas. I mean, we import an extraordinary amount of seafood from other places.
Makes me sick.
Yeah, and the truth is, a lot of that seafood is done, in companies or in countries where maybe regulations aren't quite as stringent and strict as they are in the U.S. and Canada. And I'd rather eat a regionally raised fish, or at least a fish that I know was raised in, ticking all the boxes of sustainability and health, not only for the fish itself, but for the ecosystem surrounding it, and also for the people growing it. I mean, every chef needs a farmer, every farmer needs a chef, Yeah.
Right now for me, because this podcast is sponsored by Forever Oceans, a startup aquaculture company that's doing things right. And being on this long ride of this discussion and understanding, and seeing the boxes start to get ticked off that they're actually being dealt with better, we get ourselves to a point now that, I feel like the Trojan chef, because I'm in the room and we can have some influence with each other on what do you think the next species we should be going with the company that's growing, and I get to have influence on that from a chef's perspective and from a long-time environmentalist knowledge.
Yeah, well, you are a Trojan chef because you were the tip end, the pointy end of the sword, and we the next generation of chefs behind you. If you were number one, we're the next sort of 3, 4, 5, 6. There's, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 of us who are really committed champions. Actually, I guess Blue Ribbon Task Force is about 60 chefs, isn't it, at Monterey Bay Aquarium?
And they're strong. Are you in the loop on all the things that are going on at the moment?
Oh, I'm very committed. I'm part of all the emails, and we're learning lots from each other.
Absolutely.
In North America, we eat 4 species of fish, as I'm sure your listeners know. We eat some sort of white fish, some sort of pink fish, some sort of tuna, and by far the most consumed seafood is shrimp. We want square chunks of flavorless protein in North America. We're a pretty, I got to be careful what I say, but our diets and our palates are
narrow-minded.
fairly
narrow-minded.
Yeah. Anywhere else in the world, we're eating all the things with the bones and the heads and the delicious little fish that we know they should be eating, but they don't want to eat because it smells like the ocean, or it's briny and salty and oily and delicious. But that's not what we want. We want things that, you can pour a sweet sauce on top and all of a sudden it is 8 ounces of protein. We should be eating, I like to say we need to eat more nutrient-dense plant-based ingredients with sustainability as the garnish. And so what should we be eating? Gosh, man, more shellfish, more seaweed. I love a great tuna if it's caught responsibly. I love wild BC salmon. I love the species that we already champion. When it comes to farmed fish, kampachi is a delicious fish. Trouts and chars and different salmonoids, they're delicious fish. Cobia is a half decent fish. I like sturgeon when done. I think we just need to, chicken is chicken, beef is beef. I love a good steak and I love a great roasted chicken, but how many different ways can we eat chicken? Like there's hundreds and hundreds of fish in the ocean that we could be eating. And instead we put pressure on, the big species and the big fisheries. No wonder we overfish them because we're not diversifying our diets enough. It's shame on us,
No, we love them to death,
That's right.
Because we chase them down. We outnumber them in the matter of what we consume, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's because you and I have been doing this for so long, we've seen it. And, the work that we were doing up and until the pandemic hammered the world, was extraordinary. Now, of course, we're going to be behind the 8 ball a little bit for, 12 or 18 months, maybe even 2 years of work that slowed down just a touch. I am committed to educating my peers about responsible aquaculture. And truthfully, I've had my fair share of being attacked by social media and by the environmentalists out there because of my commitment to aquaculture. And
if they're not attacking you, you're not speaking loud enough. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's
go on.
I agree. It might not be popular, but that doesn't make it not true. We can't just keep eating the same wild fish. Look at what we did to Chilean sea bass. Look at what we did to Atlantic cod. Look at what we've done to, big tunas around the world.
On the other side, in the Atlantic, striped bass. It's another fish that has a long history. Right. They're in trouble again. There was one time where they were in trouble, but then there was a moratorium because they found mercury in it, so you're not allowed to catch them. They rebounded so fast, so strong, so beautifully because we just eased off of them. For a couple of years, they became a nuisance, and then we overfished them again. We're just idiots. That's it. Well, we're idiots.
But what I love about aquaculture is it can be different things, right? It can be ranching or farming. It can be, look at what they do in Alaska. They ranch the heck out of fish up there so that their wild fishery is responsible. And it's not just one thing or one way. There can be land-based. There can be, I mean, we should be eating invasive species. What about lionfish? You know, like, you know, I wish that
Asian
more people,
carp.
Yeah, I wish that, I mean, look at the challenges in the Mississippi. Like, I mean, the world is massive, although it's not when it comes to, you know, the seafood that we consume. I mean, I've been on shrimp farms in Vietnam. I've been all over, you know, all over China, you know, studying fisheries and farms all over the place. And, you know, I think the work and the regulation that we live to in North America and the US and Canada is world class. And we should be supporting our farmers in our own regions, in our own coastal communities. We should be, you know, promoting small scale fisheries and supporting those small scale fisheries regionally. I mean, I think looking ahead into the future, we know we need to eat more plant-based ingredients, but we still want protein, and we want protein to come from tasty seafood. So let's just expand our diets. You know, in my cookbook Lure, I have this thing, I call it the 52 and 12. I want you to eat sustainable seafood once a week for the next year, but then once a month, I want you to try something from the ocean you've never had before. Could be sea urchin, could be gooey duck, could be, you know, could be sea cucumber, could be all kinds of different tasty things. You know, I mean, there's so many tasty things in the ocean, and I just wish our culture in North America was a little bit more open to broadening their palates. You know, and when I started cooking, Rick, you know, just similar time to you. Remember when center of the plate was where it was at, right? 8 ounces of beef tenderloin, mashed potatoes, and overcooked asparagus. Like, that was dinner, you know? Nowadays, our dinner plates look very different, right? I mean, look at the cultural influence. Look at the deliciousness that we've been brought from around the world. Korean food, Thai food, Vietnamese food, Chinese food, Mexican food, South American food, Indian food. I mean, thank God we live in this melting pot of a country, because the flavors are extraordinary.
I just did a tasting of the kahala. It's the first fish that's coming out through Forever Oceans, and it's, you know, it's amberjack, and so they're pre-market, not available yet, but, you know, I'm in the circle. I'm their chef ambassador, so we're playing with them, and I wanted to you know, slice off a few pieces and do a couple of preparations and present them to the owner. So I was in you know, Warrenton, Virginia, and a beautiful place in a manor, you know, just absolutely gorgeous. And I just wanted to show him the multitude of ways that this one fish can be prepared, from raw to poached to seared on a Thai papaya salad to and we grilled another preparation. So we had 5 courses of the same fish, and to me, that's one of the most exciting opportunities. And to take the heads and the bones in the rack and make stock out of it, to do the poaching, make a dashi out of that. You know, you get it. And I don't get to do that as often anymore, because I'm not running restaurants. You know, I'm in a different position. I'm doing more of a creative managerial position for a company out of Houston. And but to be able to still put my hands on fresh fish like this and talk to you is just super exciting, man.
Well, I mean, you know, what I love about seafood is that it's endless. The deliciousness is endless. And, you know, I mean, I wish that we ate more seafood than French fries. Currently, we don't. I wish that we looked, you know, I mean, I think that one of the things that you and I have to do, and our peers have to do, is if we get our hands on fresh fish, we're really lucky. But you know what? Frozen fish is not a 4-letter word either.
I'm glad you're talking about this.
You know, we need to get more. I mean, frozen fish caught at its peak season, processed on the boat or on the shore, you know, hours or a day after it's been harvested. I mean, and then flash frozen, you know, in these extraordinary freezers nowadays, shipped across the country or wherever. I mean, it's premium stuff. Most people could never tell the difference. And,
now,
you know,
here's what I like to tell about this is, you know, 2 boats side by side, pulling a fish out of the water simultaneously. Boat A lets the fish flop around on the deck, rips the hook out of its mouth to go for another one, just kicks it to the side. Boat B takes it, immediately slides it into an ice slurry hull, and then continues to fish. Now, they're both fresh as each other. but one has been treated properly and one hasn't. And we know how fast a fish will deteriorate. Anything with that low pH and high moisture content, breaks down, like chicken, falls into the same category. You know how fast chicken goes bad. And you always have to use the chicken reference because everybody knows chicken, buddy, right?
Yep.
So there's, it's that mentality of so now we're back to boat B. And then there's a guy who takes it out after it's been, allowed to just bleed out or whatever it needs to do, and then the fish is now officially, dead. And then it gets filleted immediately, cryovac and frozen. Are you kidding me? Which fish do you want? Okay, now we talk about quality, the fish, textural quality of the fish and what changes during it. And I would think certain fish need to go through rigor mortis, such as sturgeon, skate. A couple of fish if you took them right out of the water, thinking fresh, boom, you'd end up with you couldn't even chew it when you cooked it. So there's a lot of considerations to it, but as a chef, but I think I love your analogy of chicken because, people that often say to me, oh, I don't eat farmed fish. I'm just like, when's the last time you had wild chicken? Like we don't eat wild animals, right? I mean, we only eat wild seafood, and thank God Mother Nature gives it to us. Like we eat farmed, raised animals, chicken, beef, those animals are raised for it's all farmed. There's only one wild and carnivorous available product to us as a globe, pretty much. I mean, I'm sure you can eat carnivores in other parts of the world, but we're not farming lions here in the United States yet. So it's still seafood.
We're not eating carrier pigeons anymore like we used to back in the early 1900s. I mean, we got rid of all those guys. Like the truth is we still are so fortunate globally to have wild fish. And, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's not our right to eat it all, man. We got to farm more fish. We have to farm more fish. We just have to do it responsibly. The right feed conversions with the right densities, with the right species, with the right technologies. I mean, it is the only answer if we want to still have access to wild seafood, because if we don't farm fish, we're just going to hammer wild fish until there is no more.
I want to talk to you about one thing because I just think it's the most brilliant concept, and it's a concept until it becomes a reality, and this is what I would like to see in the future. And are you familiar with the gentleman by the name of Terry Chopin?
I am not.
Okay, well, he's from Canada, so I figured you all knew each other. Just sorry. So Terry Chopin was doing a presentation in the Monterey Bay Aquarium. I'm sitting in the audience, and he's not getting too many people. His engagement is he's very charismatic, and he was talking about IMTA, and it's called Integrated Multi-Trophic Aquaculture.
Oh, yeah.
And he was trying to get everybody to remember it by actually singing YMCA up on the stage. Remember IMTA and Integrated Multi-Trophic Aquaculture. And when I heard it, because all I was seeing is problems coming up in aquaculture. I know aquaculture is important. This is early on in my learning about experience. I was just visualizing the whole situation. There's definitely a need for aquaculture, but they're running into problems. They have sea lice. So what do? They use a chemical, the only one available, but it happens to be it kills lice beautifully, but it also kills other shellfish, shrimp, lobsters, and whatever else might be around. Bad idea. We have to learn a new way. So they had to go through that learning curve, So he's doing this IMTA song up there, talking about the problems and everything that's going on. And we're always trying to fight an issue in a situation. First of all, we create a stress environment. You stress out all these animals in an environment that didn't really necessarily, design itself to have that kind of density in it. So it's putting pressure not only in the pen, but outside the pen and beyond, So the only way to battle it is with, the guns and ammos and circles and all the things that they could come up with. IMTA, this was an epiphany for me, is you take, for instance, a salmon, and what's the byproduct of salmon? Effluent. What's the problem with it? It's the nutrients in it are so dense and rich that it suffocates things. It kills things. It's too much for them. It's like too much nitrogen on your lawn will kill everything. But there's things that love that nitrogen, like kelp. Love that nitrogen. So you farm kelp within the perimeter of the fish farm, and you're taking care of effluent naturally. And kelp is awesome. We're talking about seaweed. There's a whole nother discussion on it. Nothing wrong with it. And what also can and also loves kelp? Mussels. So you have now one feeding off the other, It almost becomes this perpetual natural way to solve it. It's how nature would do it on its own. But now, because we created a more stressed situation, we have to cultivate it in a design that can work within itself and create the most healthy environment possible. Right. That's the fantasy, beautiful thing that I saw up there in the epiphany. I don't see enough of it. The discussion of it doesn't seem to happen as often as I'd like to. But
well, I mean, IMTA is a phenomenal thought process when it comes to how to raise multiple species. I mean, I'm a part of a company called Ocean Regenerative, and we're farming kelps and different seaweed up here with the Canadian Kelp Company. You know, looking ahead into what and where.
I think all the money's in dulse.
Is it?
I think.
Yeah,
I mean, it tastes like bacon.
Dulse is delicious. I would agree. I would agree.
Dulse.
But you know, the interesting thing about seaweed, like here's another educational opportunity for us. Most people don't know that seaweed's been used for a long time in many things that we already consume. You know, we brush our teeth with toothpaste that has a derivative of alginate in it. You know, ice cream,
agar.
You know, agar. You know, beauty products. I mean, it's only a matter of time before seaweed becomes a larger part of the North American diet. It's already a part of, you know, diets around the world. Some coastal diets around the world, especially in Asia and things. But shellfish, I mean, look at clams, mussels, oysters. I mean, gosh almighty, you know, I wish that more people understood how inexpensive, always available, and delicious clams, mussels, and oysters are. And, you know, if you don't live on the ocean, you don't often think about the ocean. And that's part of the challenge, right? You know, North America, we're surrounded by oceans. You know, we have 3, you know, extraordinary oceans in Canada that surround our country. And then, you know, you guys have obviously massive coastline where, you know, not only the commercial fishing industry, you know, the tourism industry, the sport fishing industry is massive. You know, seafood, seaweed, and the ocean is a big, big, big part of our identity, you know, and we need to do everything in our power as chefs to engage the next generation. You know, you were number one. I'm number one of 100. How do we get to number 100 of 1,000? You know, like we have to.
I'd be happy for that.
Right. I mean, you know, when you and I are gone, who's going to be doing our work? Because we're going to go one day and the oceans are still going to be around. And if we've done our job right, so will salmon, so will, you know, Atlantic cod, so will striped bass, so will all these species that we hold near and dear to our hearts. That's the, you know, I've been cooking for 30 years now. You're probably closer to 40. And you know what, when I'm in my 70s, I want to make sure that I've done something. I've left something for the future.
Yeah, I agree. I want to have an impact. You know, people say you already have it. So, well, it's not done. It's never done. You know, and the way I look at it, if I wake up one morning in my 80s and I'm making an omelet for breakfast and I keel over and die right on the floor, I win. Yep. That's winning to me. You know, I don't plan on retiring. You know, slowing down, going fishing more, and getting in the ocean more. Yeah. But maybe in Vancouver, who knows?
Yeah. How's Ronnie doing?
Ronnie's doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Tell her I say hi.
I certainly will. She loves you dearly.
She's a wonderful woman.
Well, we've had some good adventures.
Come on, holy smokes!
What's that?
She has to put up with you, Chef. Come on, holy smokes!
Yes, you got a very good point there, Ned. Thanks. She's walking the dogs right now. We're good. We can talk about it. So, oh man, so many things. I have things written down all over the place here, but you know, back to Rob Feeney. You competed against him, is that right? Or what was the deal with Iron Chef and you and Rob Feeney? I want to hear the story. Now, you know, we could go on for days talking about ocean issues, you know.
Yeah, let me set the stage. So Rob Feeney is like my older brother. So he and I have had more passionate, you know, screaming matches in the kitchen than anyone I know. And you know what I'm talking about. Like
100%.
you know, back in the day, your sous chef and your chef would often go at it because, you know, it was high stakes, high pressure, you know, I mean, embarrassingly, you know, not during service, but often for hours after service, alcohol fueled and like hyper creative, right? I mean, we were at the top of our game, and you know, truthfully, foolishly, we sort of thought that, you know, we were all that and a bag of chips, but we weren't, of course. So, you know, fast forward 15 years and Food Network Canada calls me up and says, hey, we want you to compete on Iron Chef. And so they said, who would you like to compete against?
You chose Rob Feeney?
Well, no, but it's been better. So they gave me a choice, 3 chefs, all of them, you know. So it was either Lynn Crawford, Susur Lee, or Rob Feeney. And I was like, Susur, obviously, you know, his food and my food doesn't really compete all that well because Susur's like,
he's on another planet.
He's on another planet. He's, you know, his food is obviously, you know, Asian in concept. I would say French in technique, but Asian in concept. But so I said, I mean, Lynn Crawford and I were very similar. She was the chef of the Four Seasons New York. I mean, she's an incredible talent. Her food is very farm to table. You know, my food is nowadays very farm to table. But I said, listen, to be able to compete against your mentor is like a dream come true. And so, you know, it obviously wasn't up to me because, of course, you know, you don't really know in Iron Chef who you get to compete against. They surprise you with ingredient and with your chef. And so I said, I'd love to, you know, if I had my choice, I'd love to compete against Lynn or Rob. So, you know, fast forward, we're shooting the segment. It's an 8-hour day, as you know, it takes forever to shoot television. And, you know, it's the exact same set as Food Network, as Iron Chef USA. It's the same, you know, all the pomp and circumstance. And you know, the screen lifts and it's Rob Feeney. And the secret ingredient was stone fruit. And of course, being from the Okanagan, that's, you know, peaches, cherries, nectarines, apricots, all of those incredible things. So it really spoke to both of us. And I served sustainable seafood. He did a little bit of sustainable seafood, but he also did, you know, foie gras and a bunch of other things. It was an epic battle. I thought I kicked his ass, quite honestly, but the judges thought otherwise.
Who were the judges? Do you remember who the judges? Oh, well, that's Canada. I probably wouldn't know them.
No, you wouldn't know them. They were Canadian media personalities.
Right.
But you know, I already won, man. I got to be on Food Network with my mentor, compete against him on a national challenge for Iron Chef. Like, win or lose, I'd already won. I mean, I've had a dream career, man. Like, you know, I worked my tail off, but I'm one of the most luckiest guys around. I absolutely love what I do. I mean, cooking has kicked my ass, but you know what? I've been able to recover from getting my ass kicked, pick myself up, quit drinking, focus on sustainable seafood, love what I do still, have an incredible family, 3 sons, my unbelievable wife who just beat breast cancer. I mean, it doesn't get any better, man. It just doesn't.
I'm in the same place. No, we sound like a broken record. Sounds like a bunch of a crock of it all, but it's not. You know, I'm living the life that's a dreamland. You know, I guess right places, right time, right attitude, right upbringing, whatever it is, and doing everything wrong and learning from doing everything wrong. That's what we did, and I think that's what drives you.
You know what I know for sure is that my mom and my wife and a number of other people that surrounded me, they were there to catch me when I fell, and that is the gift that you and I were given, is that we actually had people around us that cared enough to catch us when we fell, because very few people actually get that opportunity, right? Many people fall and they don't have anyone around them to support them when they fall. And I mean, how many of our peers have we seen, you know, either die or go down in a you know, ball of flames because of drugs or alcohol or, you know, poor behavior,
suicide.
I mean, mental health is huge in our industry. You know, it's huge in society, but it's huge in our industry. And, you know, also
it's not taken seriously because we're brought up in a culture where you're not a wimp. Can't be a wimp. You're not allowed to be a wimp.
Well, you know, not to throw anyone under the bus, but, you know, we glorified chefs that were screaming on television because we thought that was cool in the kitchen. And back in the day, we didn't know any better, but it was bullshit, man. Like, truthfully, that's not the way we want to run our brigades. We need diversity. We need representation. We need all the good of society, and in the kitchen it should be that. You know, my two sous chefs are female and they're both lesbian. Like, they're spectacular human beings, right? Yes. Does it matter their preference in life? Of course not. They're incredibly good chefs. Like, it's irrelevant, you know. I mean, it just doesn't matter. But back in the day, 30 years ago, it was all white and all male, and truthfully all baloney, you know, and all like hyper masculine energy that was just a bunch of baloney anyway. It
was. You know, but then again, as we talk about everything else, you know, there's a deterioration within the system of cuisine as we knew it, right? Just the mentality of, I'm graduating college to culinary school because I'm going to get on TV, or it'll just take me about a year before I'm a chef. You know, all the backstories and people, and it's one of the reasons I like to have these discussions, is so that we can kind of at least get it out there from the original gangsters, or what your experiences are. Man, you've gone through so much in your life, so much, and I mean, yet you're right now doing exactly what you want to be doing. You just said that you could possibly be happier, and I'm in a similar situation, but this is about you. I do this I'm on every podcast. You're not, so it's up to you. It's your story.
I mean, to be clear, Rick, I feel fortunate that I came up when I did. You know, I got to, you know, look at chefs like Thomas Keller and Charlie Trotter and, you know, Daniel Boulud. And I mean, unfortunately, they were all men, but that was just who were the leaders back then. There was, you know, some incredible female chefs that weren't getting the praise that they deserved. You know, I wouldn't trade those inspired mentors for anything. You know, I mean, nowadays, I don't know that the chefs actually have the same type of champions to look up to. I mean, guys like you, Norman Van Aken, Emeril. I mean, you know, you guys were bigger than everything. And, you know, TV had a lot to do with that, obviously. You know, Vegas. I mean, look at what Vegas did for the food world. I mean, Elizabeth Blau, look at what she's done to support,
you know, incredible
podcast. Pardon me?
She's my next podcast.
Yeah, Elizabeth is an incredible leader. I mean, she's, you know, I'm fortunate she's become a dear friend with her husband, Kim Cantinwalla. But, you know, they opened these great hotel restaurants up here in Vancouver. And you know, what they did in Vegas, you know, alongside guys like you and all the other incredible chefs there. But I wouldn't trade the time that I, you know, have come up in the chef world for anything, because truthfully, I had my butt kicked and I needed to have my butt kicked. And, you know, there's a reason why you do an apprenticeship for 3 years. There's a reason why you get paid $8.
Butt kicking today in a school situation means you're fired immediately.
Yeah. Well,
I got my butt kicked by my instructors, you know, but little by little, you know, and that was the beginning of the deterioration of cuisine as we know it today. And it'll re-evolve, and it's just like everything on this planet. You know, it'll probably go through a stage, and you know, spring will happen again in the evolution of cuisine, and you know, and newness will come out, and it'll be good again, I think.
Sure. You know, obviously the world of food is much bigger than just, you know, traditional classical French cuisine. I mean, now we're looking at fermentation, and we're looking at, you know, guys, you know, in you know, the Netherlands that are doing some incredible things, guys in South America that are doing some incredible things, you know, chefs in Peru, chefs in, you know, the South Pacific. I mean, there's some unbelievable food in Asia.
What do you think about edible insects? I have somebody sending me a box of samples of edible insects, because I am of the mentality that if I don't know about it, I need to. So
I've had crickets before, you know, cricket flour. You know, I've had grubs that have gone into fish feed that has been an interesting thing. I mean, we have to experiment with all of it. We can't just continue to grind up all the little fish and feed it to big fish. Like, we have to look for other ways to, to feed fish delicious things. I mean, fish are, we are what we are. We are what we eat, right? So, we need to make sure that what our fish are eating is a combination of delicious, healthy things. And, for us, I think what I look forward to in the future of culinary is diving deeper into regional food, diving deeper into, making sure we understand First Nations cultures and what they represented when it came to the influence of our food systems, paying attention and paying a fair price to fishers and farmers for their harvest and their catch, hyper focusing on season and region. That's what we're doing in the Okanagan. That's what we're doing in Narmada. And, I'm sort of following in Thomas Keller's footsteps when he first moved to Napa 30 plus years ago. We're hoping to do something similar up here in the Okanagan. And, it's pretty darn cool, man. I mean, it's, the food world is vast, and that's the one thing is the world seems huge, but at the same time, it's not actually as big as we think. I wanted to quickly talk about one of the greatest things I ever did. I was influenced in my early culinary to focus on pastries and desserts. The beginning and the end of any great meal is comes from the pastry kitchen. And I would love if more chefs paid attention to baking and pastry, because we need more pastry chefs, man. We need more chefs who have skills that aren't just the cowboys in the hot kitchen. We need great chefs who are cooking some extraordinary things or baking some extraordinary things from the pastry shop.
It is a shrinking category in most, today, comfort food, modern concepts. But
because
I agree with you.
Sticky toffee pudding or warm chocolate cake. Like, I mean,
help me. Creme brulee. No. Go away.
We need more pastry talent. And, that's one thing I would like to see.
Yeah, for sure. Ned, I promise you I wouldn't keep you longer than an hour. First of all, you're going to get some fish. I'm going to make sure we coordinate to get some fresh kahala to you to play with. To video yourself opening the box, making things, doing whatever you want. Get creative, have fun with it, because I really want your feedback. I want to know the condition it arrives, because when we go full blown, we want to make sure that we've got the system down. The box is correct, and I don't know about quarantines, etc. in Canada. And hopefully, there's not going to be an issue. But I will definitely get fish in your hands somehow, so that you get a chance to connect with. Everything that one of the things that I'm working on that I'm pretty passionate about.
Yeah, well, Chef, I'd love to collaborate with you again. I'd love to tour the farm. I'd love to have you in my kitchen and be in your kitchen again soon, brother.
Would you want to fly to Hawaii with me and go scuba diving and check out the pods, and all that kind of stuff?
Let me think about that for a second.
Yeah, give it a little thought.
Yes.
All right. Well. You've been recorded, my friend. I love you with all my heart. You're fantastic. You give. The reason you're such an educator is because you got your ass kicked and you know about it. You've got the point of reference, the scope of it all. I have goosebumps right now just signing off with you. But throughout the whole thing, I didn't have to do any work. Like I said in the beginning, you're an amazing person, a great family man. You're in a great place in your life, which just makes me, exuberant. And I just want to thank you and everyone listening. This is Ocean Raised, Chef Rick Moonen. Thank you, Ned Bell. Love you, brother.
Have a great day, brother. I love you too. Hope to see you soon.
Take care.
ForeverOceans.com